How do you differentiate between what is culture and what is Dharma? This takes a long time to do. I think one has to be involved in the Dharma for a very long time before doing this, because otherwise one starts to say, well, these parts of the Dharma I agree with, so that must be the Dharma. But those parts I don't like, so that must be culture. Okay? And then you wind up doing what I call throwing the Buddha out with the bathwater. Okay? Restyling the Dharma to make it agree with our own opinions. So I had a big experience with that thing of asking myself, what is Buddhism and what is culture? I'm an American. I trained in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and lived in the Tibetan community for many years. So I had just mastered sitting for hours on end. I was learning some Tibetan chanting. I knew how to put on the Tibetan robes and, was learning about Tibetan culture and so on and manners and, just adjusting. And then in 1986, I went to Taiwan to take the Bhikshuni ordination. And the Chinese do not sit for hours. They do all their chanting standing up. And they weren't chanting in Tibetan, they were chanting in Chinese. And they weren't wearing these robes. I had to go there. When I went there, I was wearing Chinese robes. Totally different how you put on the Chinese robes. How you walk. All sorts of different things in the training are very, very different. And so I spent a long time, because I was in Taiwan 2 months there, and thinking about what is culture and what is the Dharma. Because here's my experience in Tibetan Buddhism, here's my experience in Chinese Buddhism, and I'm an American. So there's 3 things there. And how did they fit together? Yeah. So I really had to spend a lot of time thinking about this. It's not something that Asians think about so much, especially Tibetans, because Tibetans were never occupied by Western powers. They haven't had Western-style education or universities, so they don't have, for example, studies like sociology, anthropology, historical analysis and historical criticism, the kinds of liberal arts topics that you would have in a Western university. So they don't think, what is culture and what is Buddhism? Because, so much of Tibetan culture just got fused with Buddhism and vice versa. Yeah. And so they don't think, for them it's just all, this is what we do, yeah, as Tibetan Buddhists. So, for me, because I studied liberal arts at university, then I had a very different perspective kind of looking at these things and trying to figure them out. Yeah. And it really took a long time. And it's an ongoing process. I won't say that I have it all figured out. Okay? But definitely an ongoing process. And something that has to be done with a great deal of care. And I think also living in Asia for some time is very helpful to doing that. Because otherwise, in the West, sometimes we tend to have this kind of colonialist attitude that we will take what they have and make it better. Yeah? We'll take Buddhism, we will improve it, we will get rid of all the superstition, we will get rid of all the nonsensical devotion. We will get rid of all the fables and make Buddhism really scientific. Now, are we really capable of doing that? Have we actualized the path such that we're clear in our own minds what is the path and what is culture? Yeah. Or are we just acting from, well, I like the Dharma and I want it to be more familiar to what I already believe, so I'm going to just adjust some things. So we've had this thing of secular Buddhism come up, and I really think that we need some caution in that area, especially about the topic of rebirth, and people saying, well, the Buddha didn't really teach rebirth. It's very clear in the scriptures the Buddha did teach rebirth. It's very clear that it's part of the system. Okay. Now, does that mean you need to believe in rebirth in order to benefit from the Buddha's teachings? Not at all. Yeah, the Buddhist teachings can benefit you whether you believe in rebirth or not. Okay. But, for example, to generate bodhicitta, I think that would be really difficult without an understanding of rebirth. Okay. To accept the idea of enlightenment would be very difficult if we just said, well, rebirth is an Asian thing and we don't really believe it, or we're agnostic about it, or whatever. So I'm not saying that we have to make ourselves believe things that we don't believe. But what I'm saying is, if there's things that don't jive with you at first, don't throw them out. Keep them on the back burner. Come back to them once in a while. See if they make sense to you after you've learned more, after you've done more practice, after your own mind has started to change. Yeah. And, don't let your ego be the arbiter of what is Buddhism and what isn't. That's dangerous.